Oh, I didn't see you there. Oh, you must be those strange future people, huh? The future's come to visit me, huh? All right. Oh, hello. And another future man. What? You think I'm busy making designs for the pyramids? Coming up with a great concept of how to build higher and higher and higher? Well, you're wrong. Pyramids are so old, old-fashioned. No, I'm actually getting inspiration for some of the inscriptions for the tombs. No, you see, this is the new kingdom. Welcome. Instead of building up, we dig down these days. Pyramids, old-fashioned. Ah, beautiful. There we go. Ah. Great. Right. Hello, future. I present to you, the future, my latest outfit. We now go and visit the New Kingdom in ancient Egypt. And as you can see, I am in the attire of a humble scribe, with my reed pen and my papyrus with hieratic script. So, a slight inaccuracy, this is actually also linen. I sadly don't have papyrus. But nonetheless, they do look a little bit similar at first quick glance, so alright, it's inaccurate, alright. So, my latest outfit. Before I explain the outfit, as you can see, let me first explain the long history of Egypt, but I think I will try to summarize it as best as I can. So, without further ado, ancient Egypt. What is ancient Egypt? You're probably thinking that really, again, you're here at the Tigris/Euphrates/Indus River. All right. I'm actually at a new place. The place I was initially going to film at. They're busy filming a soap opera TV thing. So they were just as surprised as I am to see an Egyptian walking through their set. Millions of people might watch that TV show, but I know there are a few of my loyal few who are watching Missionism, and guys, thank you so much. TV series, they have their place in society, but I think we need a few more people to bring back what it was like to be an ancient Egyptian scribe. And I've got a very nice surprise for you right over here, but I'll show it to you later. But first things first. History of Egypt. So some people could say it started in roughly the 32nd century BC. However, I think that you could even argue it was about 17,000 BC. Reason being is because they found old inscriptions in the stone, basically going back to around 17,000 BC. So in Kurta, modern day Egypt, they found old inscriptions of hippos, oryxes, and and they thought to themselves, interesting. Egypt had already been known. The whole 18th century revival and subsequent Victorian craze over Egypt had already gone. But in Kirta, there was something else, a bit more recently discovered. Old inscriptions of animals on stones, and greetings from the Pharaoh. Future people. And these actually date back to the Stone Age, the Paleolithic, not the Neolithic, Paleolithic. So it's actually not too surprising, because before the Bronze Age and the Ubaid period of first farmers came the Stone Age. So Egypt itself went through its own Stone Age. Nomads living around and moving from place to place to catch the animals. And wherever the weather was good, they followed it, and they did not settle. So yeah, Egypt was just like so many civilizations before. Bronze Age civilizations started in very nomadic conditions. And so yes, fast forward a bit, and they say that about around the year 8000 BC things changed. It's theorized that the Earth is on its axis, a slight tilt. And they say that the Earth's axis tilted yet another 0.5 degrees, very slight. And this axial tilt had an effect on weather, and it turned out that North Africa became even drier. It was actually not too bad in North Africa, but then things became drier. And naturally what ends up happening is the only good place to live is by a river. So the only habitable place was the River Nile. And greetings, future people. Yes, greetings. So the Nile was pretty much the only place one could live. So the nomadic pre-Egyptians settled around the Nile, and this gave birth to Egypt. The Egyptians never called themselves Egyptians. They called themselves the land of, the two lands. And the split between lower and upper Egypt, I'll explain why it's lower and upper Egypt. The origins come at the Kirta Bend. The Kenna Bend. The Kenna Bend in the Nile River is a nice fertile little spot, but you find that people who settled in the north and then people who settled in the south were beginning to diversify in culture. So much so to the fact that they were actually very distinct. And eventually these cultures come into contact again, and there is harmony and disharmony. But let's just say that come the 32nd century BC, and someone named Nama decides to unite Upper and Lower Egypt. So this man that was called Nama, he went by a few names, but he eventually settled for King Nama, and he was, people could argue, the first pharaoh. So King Nama united both south and north to pretty unified states, and that was where many argue was the birth of ancient Egypt, which yes, I think was the beginning of ancient Egypt as we know it, and the end of prehistoric Egypt, or you could say pre-dynastic Egypt. This was the beginning of the dynasties, which would literally last for 3,000 years of Egyptian history. Remember that, very important, dynasties. So 1,000 years, Egypt is flourishing, and this is what people called the Old Kingdom, the Great Pyramid Age as well. This is when the pyramids were built. The pyramids were actually built in the 26th century BC, roughly 500 years after Nama unified Egypt. And this is where the Great Pyramids of Giza are built. As you're thinking, those pyramids that people think that I built, no. Listen, I lived closer to the time of, let me think, closer to the time of Mark Antony and Cleopatra than the time of the Great Pyramids, all right? So yes, the Great Pyramid Age saw a boom of Egypt. And another thing that helped Egypt become so powerful You think about all these greats, I call it the three great civilizations, Rome, Greece, and Egypt. Or you could refer to the three greats of the Fertile Crescent, the Indus, Mesopotamia, and Egypt. Why Egypt is just the longest lasting out of all of them. It even outlived Rome, technically. Is think about it, for the first big chunk of Egyptian history, there was almost no resistance. Things were actually really settled and peaceful. And Egypt was basically, you look at Egypt and its military, and there is very little military development for the whole of the Old Kingdom. A man with a hide shield and a spear, and that's your army. That is your army. So Egypt didn't have a lot of threats to fight and combat. And it is Ra traveling in his bark across the sky. It's a very noisy bark. And why is the sun? The sun is the bark, all right? Heretics imitating Ra's bark. We all know that the sun is Ra traveling across the sky on his bark, his boat, into the underworld and to be reborn again. These future things are busy imitating the heresy. So where was I? Yes. So yeah, the Old Kingdom was very stable. There's basically no foreign invasions. Egypt is allowed to thrive and flourish in the blessing of the River Nile. However, things changed. Things changed come the time of Pharaoh Pepi. Pepi was one of the oldest pharaohs in Egyptian history, and basically he was so old that every 30 years the pharaoh celebrates his jubilee celebration. So I can't imagine most pharaohs saw their second jubilee at all, if even their first jubilee. But he saw his third jubilee, and he was 90 years old. And Pepi was expected to run 2 times around a circuit for Upper Egypt and another 2 times for Lower Egypt. It was basically a demonstration of the pharaoh's strength. Pepi couldn't do it. So this made people start to doubt the pharaoh's power. Another thing is they argue that things were actually starting to go quite badly come this time. There was a famine, and so basically Egypt is now descending into chaos, and the authority of the king, set in place by Nama, was now questioned. So we now enter what is called the first intermediate period, or what I like to call the first dark ages of Egypt. War and political chaos. Basically, it's just like with Japan, where it descends into a warring states period, where local leaders are now vying for control and they're fighting each other. One such warlord, his name was what he became known as Montuhotep, and his name explains a lot. Montu was an Egyptian war god, and Hotep means is pleased. So the war god is pleased. Montuhotep, this man steps up and he decides to, basically what happened was the north, they committed sacrilege, burning temples and tombs, and Montuhotep gets retribution and goes north and basically destroys the rebels. However, Montuhotep, instead of just being another crazy guy and destroying everything, he instead unifies Egypt, just like King Nama. And Montuhotep, you even see him portrayed as wearing the crown of the north, which he wasn't a northern king, but now he's wearing the crown of the north, and everyone can know what that means. He basically became king of the north and the south, Montuhotep. Montuhotep united again, just like Nama did 1,000 years later. And he instead, so now in the Old Kingdom, the main city of influence was Memphis. Memphis is in the north, and right in that area is also where they were building the Great Pyramids. Giza is also in the north. Now Montuhotep starts to now shift power to Thebes. This is now the rise of Thebes. And now we begin what is called the Middle Kingdom. And now the Middle Kingdom is pretty cool because people are now flourishing. Egypt is back in order with the king at the top. Things are looking good. However, since all of the sacrilege committed against all the pyramids and the tombs, people are now fearful and things are a little bit more superstitious this time. People are now a bit more skeptical, so people start to instead make their tombs and funerary items much more small and humble. And this is you see a rise of wooden tomb models, and I'll explain right near the end of why wooden tomb models are quite important for my outfits. But yeah, basically come the 17th century BC, the 1600s, and now for the first time a foreign invader has stepped in, the Hyksos. The Hyksos used to trade with the Egyptians. Look at my lovely, it's called kohl, my eye makeup. And the Hyksos, they had been giving us the kohl for a long time, not kohl, K-O-H-L. And the Hyksos slowly infiltrate Egyptian ranks until, well, they're in power. But many of the Egyptians don't like this because the Hyksos are a little bit untactful with their conduct. There's a letter where one of the Hyksos rulers is literally telling the hippopotami to get lost from the Nile River because they're keeping him up at night. But that is Taweret. You cannot be so rude to the great goddess Taweret, the hippo crocodile goddess. And so the people start to fight back, and now the Hyksos had an edge because they brought in the compound bow into Egypt. A bow and arrow which is made out of a few materials to give it extra stretch and power. The Egyptians adopt the compound bow instead and simply conform to their enemy. And they take power back again. 100 years later, things are looking good, back to order. And this is now the New Kingdom. The New Kingdom is where Egypt sees its height, its zenith. And I have acknowledged Montuhotep's time with my previous outfit. This outfit is now going to the time of Ramses II, 1279. So you could argue that Ramses saw the zenith of Egypt, although you could also argue that Amenhotep, Pharaoh Amenhotep, in about 1380 saw the height of Egypt. There's a few great pharaohs, but I'm going to the time of Ramses because there's just a lot known about him. And I just thought, yeah, it's a pretty significant time. Ramses saw some of the greatest construction projects in the whole of Egypt. Well, the Great Pyramids were, but trust me, he put the Great Pyramids to shame. And oh, hello, future person again. So, yeah, and also this is the time of King Tutankhamun. And why that's important to the outfits, I'll explain now. But I must first quickly finish summarizing Egypt. Sorry, it's taking long. Okay. Then after that, then the Middle Kingdom saw its great zenith, but expenditure was very bad, and Ramses was expending way too much money. But eventually, Egypt was plundered into a bankruptcy. But then, of course, things got a bit better. But even before his time, it was, well, the time of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. This is going to the 1300s, when they introduced monotheistic worship. But people didn't like monotheistic worship because it's a great affront to having so many gods. And, well, the monotheistic worship of the Art and Sundus people did not like, and their son was Tutankhaten, was a great man, but his parents they died, and the priests of Karnak, who were shut down by Akhenaten and Nefertiti, really didn't like them, so they tried to erase their history. So that's why Tutankhaten was renamed to Tutankhamun, to acknowledge the god Amun, who was the main god as it had always been. And as soon as Tutankhamun died, they buried him, and the legacy of Akhenaten and Nefertiti all buried and forgotten, and the priests of Karnak can come back. Ah, wonderful. But then that's not the end, and let's just say that Ramses was very expended a lot of money, and this left a lot of debt and people angry. And as one of the later Ramses kings, there were so many, even Ramses IX, and the people were angry and started to protest, but the king had to shut them up with pastries, which they didn't like. But eventually he supplied their grain, because there was no money in ancient Egypt. Instead, you were paid in grain, and he supplied their grain at a pinch. But the pharaoh's power was dwindling, and then things were going all right until, the Libyans invade. Oh yeah, the Libyans were, let's just say that the Libyans were they adopted Egyptian culture. They looked very Egyptian, but deep inside they weren't interested in the gold and the riches. But eventually the Libyans were, kicked out. King Sheshonk gone, blah blah blah, and things seemed all right. But then another invader comes in, and this was who was this again? Sorry, Egyptian history is so long. I now need to find. I think it was the Sayites, was it? Oh, the Kushites. Ah, yes. Then the Kushites come in. Another invader, yet just like the Libyans before them, they were so enthralled and entranced by lovely Egyptian culture that they became pretty much Egyptian. So the Kushites were, they were alright, but not too bad. But then after that, then things got bad again. And then, was that now the Sayites? Oh my gosh. Oh, the Assyrians! Oh, even worse. The Assyrians were the worst. They came in and literally burnt Thebes down. And this is now going to the 600s BC, and the Assyrians have burnt Thebes. Thebes had never been sacked before in history. And then the people didn't like it and hated the Assyrians, but luckily the Assyrians had trouble back at home, so they had to leave back at home and leave Egypt again. And that was only up to 20 years. Oh, hooray, things are seeming so nice, lovely. But then the Persians come. Oh, the terrible Persians. Oh, the Persians basically made us into subjects, and we were again hammered down and But the Persians couldn't fully eradicate us, because then eventually, as we are in our darkest hour, we needed a savior. Who could save us? Well, how about ancient antiquities' great superhero, Alexander the Great? Yeah, Alexander the Great liberates Egypt from the Persians, and the Egyptians literally viewed Alexander as a liberator, so they actually embraced him. However, Alexander, just like the Libyans, just like the Kushites, just like the Hyksos, they all basically were absorbed into Egyptian culture, being entranced by it, because Egypt, yes, it did not have the edge in technology. By this time, come the first millennium BC, the New Kingdom has ended ever since the Libyans came in. This is now basically, Egypt is really dwindling now, but it's one of its greatest strengths was its history. And each time and time again, the conqueror would become the conquered by Egypt's culture. And Egypt became Ptolemaic after Alexander died, left to his generals to rule. And they basically kept Egypt alive, kept its religion alive, everything, mummification. Even Alexander was mummified. Alexander the Great was declared pharaoh as well, having a little rumor that he was descended from King Nama in the King's List. But anyway, so yes, but then what people could argue is the end of Egypt was when Rome came in. Rome stepped in, and they had conquered Greece in 146 BC, you could argue. It was a slow process, and even Rome was conquered by Greece in culture, just like with Egypt. But this is that Egypt's culture could not conquer Rome. Rome had a purpose. Rome knew that it was the center of the world, and Romulus and Remus were the founders. So Egyptian mythology was sort of put on the side. Practices were still around, but it basically was just another Roman province. But the real nail in the coffin was when Rome became Christian. And well, now that Rome is Christian, and this is now into the ADs, the 4th century AD, and well, hieroglyphs have been replaced by Greek, and also mummification has stopped. And basically Christianity has obviously has made no room for Egyptian religion. So yeah, that was the very long history of Egypt, and the slow and painful death, and a few golden ages. I mean, Alexandria, built by Alexander, was a real incredible city. It was literally, did you know that Alexandria in the 300s and 200s BC was the biggest city in all of the world? It was the London of the Victorian times. It was the Rome of the 1st century AD. So incredible, hey? So yeah, basically Egypt is such a long history, so complicated that it's really hard to summarize it. I have done so much injustice to its history in the short summary, but I hope I've given you a bit of an idea of how Egypt played out. So now that we know a bit about the history, we go to the time of 1279 when Ramses II is on the throne. And I've chosen to impersonate a typical scribe. So let me explain the outfit. So Egypt, of course, was very hierarchical. There was definitely the top of the food chain and the bottom. And my previous outfit was the bottom of the pile with the soldiers and the servants, and now I'm a scribe, so this is quite high up on the hierarchy. So hence I wear fine linen. So you find that the finer the linen, the whiter, the neater, the higher up. You see, something so important about Egypt is Karnak Temple. Karnak Temple had been around for 2,000 years already, even come the New Kingdom. But by the New Kingdom, it was so influential that, did you know that come the late New Kingdom and the very balance between state at the top with the pharaoh and the church under that was already doing full 360s. Church and state were becoming muddled, and that led to it becoming deteriorated. And you find that the priests at Karnak Temple were known as the pure ones, and they would wear fine white linen but be fully clean shaven and bald. But I, as a scribe, have been to Karnak Temple, but I would mostly be spending my time, greetings. I'd spend most of my time in the settlements, Sekhmat, at the Valley of the Kings. So I wear my nice good white linen and another linen girdle to gather it all at the waist. And yeah, simple as that. Footwear, I wear, okay, if you are trying to create your own outfits, I've got a little hack for you. You can take modern flip-flops and just tie lace around from the bottom side to your ankle, and that way it creates a bit of a shoe so it doesn't flop each time you walk. And Egyptian sandals were basically made out of woven materials. So yeah, this is all modern material, sadly, but I've painted it brown to mimic leather. However, leather shoes didn't seem to be really a thing. It was mostly woven sandals. You find that in Egypt, they would have woven their sandals out of fibers. So I would love to get a pair of woven sandals, but for now, we'll say that I have my very brown woven sandals with a bit of leather on it to secure it, and it's accurate enough, I suppose, just for now, just so I can have something to walk with. And if you look at the collar, it's got quite a cool, unique design. So you find that there are so many different types of, hello future person. You think I look funny, huh? Egyptians look funny, huh? Oh, you hear that, future? We look cool, huh? Thank you. Maybe she's saying that because she fears Ramses' wrath. Anyway, so I have modeled my tunic out of an exact original that we still have today. Did you know that tomb robbing was, the pyramids were all plundered during Egypt's history, so we don't even have King Khufu's original tomb as it was intact. King Khufu was the man whose tomb was the greatest of the great pyramids, or the Great Pyramid. And there was plundering throughout all of Egypt's history, sadly for us in the future. Even in the New Kingdom, there was wholesale, full-on plunder. There's even a story of one of Pharaoh's most trusted officials in on it as well. And the Valley of the Kings was established to be a secure place. And I said that my impression goes to Sekhmat. So Sekhmat was basically the settlement built right next to Valley of the Kings where all the workers would live. And they lived isolated, and they were under strict supervision by the state. But they were quite well pampered. So it was a bit of a trade-off. Do you want to live a nice, pretty relatively luxurious life and serve and build the temples, and for me, be the scribe for the temples, and I even paint sometimes on the tomb walls, it is great. but you live quite under scrutiny, and they were even searched each time they would leave, and they would only be allowed to leave after a set amount of times and all of that, but it was still plundered. However, one tomb was not touched. Can you guess whose tomb that was? Tutankhamun's tomb, or Tutankhamun, as later, because he was just so well hidden that that as the tombs were being plundered throughout its history, and even subsequently in medieval history and later ancient history, King Tut's tomb was never plundered, and we have so much left over from then. And recovered from King Tut's tomb was an original tunic, and this is the exact. I've modeled it exactly over that tunic. So if you want to have a better look to compare, I'll try put a picture up for you. But look at the original. I'll try put the original over here, and here's the one that I wear. So it is simply a big rectangle of linen with a head, a hole for your head, and slits for your arms, and sewed and gathered by the sides. And yeah, simple as that. And yes, this is pure linen. So have a look, hey? Wow, quite cool, huh? This is exactly what the Egyptians wore. Quite finer linen, so it's quite tightly woven, so it creates a nice fine feel, but you can get really like scratchy linen. Anyway, sorry, future people have now become the past. So yeah, so basically that's as simple as the attire gets. So a little treat now, a little treat. Let us get the treat, the surprise that I've been preparing for you. I have over here some of the things that people in ancient Egypt ate. So what did they eat? I will explain to you now. So there we go. So on my little mat of stuff, two things here are very inaccurate, but the rest is very accurate. Do you know what it is? Any guesses? Bread? No? Huh? 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 Okay, ready? Have you made your guess? Okay, ready, steady, and this is wrong. They did not have oranges. They didn't even know about oranges. Next thing, there's another thing, is the banana. Bananas are inaccurate. They did not have bananas in ancient Egypt. Thought I'd test you there, future. Anyway, so yeah, this is basically what people in ancient Egypt ate. By far the most popular and the most common, eaten by all classes of society, was bread. Bread, you see bread being made in round discs. Really cool. So this is modern bread. But bread could be cooked in so many ways. You could even mix, and the next on the list is dates. The Egyptians ate dates, and you could even make date bread. So mix the two. So bread by far the most common in ancient Egypt. Now, what did they drink in ancient Egypt? So you probably know, maybe you don't know. Who invented beer? Egypt did. Beer has been drunk for so many years. So here we are. So modern beer is a bit inaccurate. Your most popular modern beer because it has hops in it. They did not have hops back then. So in my previous video with my soldier outfit, I briefly touched into beer, but this time I've got something. Where is it? A straw! Hooray! The Egyptians drank their beer. Oh, I always forget the bottle opener when I do Egypt. It's the second time I'm actually drinking beer since that first time I did the outfit. Yeah. So let's put it, oh dear. So let's put it in a more historically accurate container. There we go. Beer. However, this beer is wheat beer because the Egyptians made their beer out of wheat. So, and even now they're still missing stuff. So I can imagine there's a world of a difference between authentic Egyptian, ancient Egyptian beer and modern beer, but it's as close as you can get right now if you don't know how to brew your own. But you could even make it out of, and also look over here. Honey. Honey is also what they enjoyed in ancient Egypt. So just imagine mixing honey with the beer, brewing it with the beer, or putting some honey with your bread. Honey with your bread and some dates, drink beer. Yeah. Oh. And then eat your onion. So onion was mostly used by lower class people. They would have eaten a lot of vegetables. It's that very medieval notion of kings, vegetables. Nah, peasants eat vegetables, even in ancient Egypt. So yeah, just like this. And funny enough, they say the Egyptians drank beer out of straw. So obviously this is a modern straw. But they actually had a filter in the straw because the beer would have a bit of residue at the bottom. So this was actually a filter. And this became a cultural thing. So yeah, this is what Egyptian ate and drank. And to add to the list, fish and beans. The Egyptians had fish and beans. Absolutely. But yeah, by far the staple was bread and beer. Bread and beer is the staple. People lived and died drinking beer and bread. And you can see how it really was a good workers' diet because of all the carbohydrates. The beer would have probably been a bit warm. It's a little bit cool. So I'm a scribe. I keep my beer in the bottom of the house in the little area. They had little places in houses, some houses, to put all. It's like a pantry basically. Basically a big circle hole in the ground to put things to stay cool. Pretty cool, eh? So yeah, that's what Egyptians ate. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for dining with me, future. So, now there's one more thing to do before I end off our little visits from history. I'll just use beer to wash the honey. It's better to have a bit of beer in your hands than sticky honey on your hands. Ugh. So for those of you who are more interested in the martial side of history outfits, I've got something for you. So my first ancient Egyptian impression was a soldier, technically from the time of Montuhotep, but then I thought maybe the Battle of Megiddo with Pharaoh Tutmosis. So yeah, so I've improved the outfit since then, and I wanted to show you the upgrades. So I'll do a little added bonus over here. So if you actually even want to make your own outfit and reenact ancient Egypt with maybe a more militaristic outfits, check this out. So ancient Egyptian scribe. Yeah. Nice tunic. So something that even the scribe wears is underwear. What did they wear? I'll show you now. So, let me be decent. So I am wearing over here ancient Egyptian underwear. Every single class of society also wore the loins. It's simply linen loins. The future pants are showing, so it would look more like this. See, look at that, very Egyptian, huh? Hello. Hello, future person. I'm not mad, don't worry. I'm doing a history video. So, yeah, loins were worn throughout all classes of society, and I'm wearing modern underwear underneath because I want to show you how to put on Egyptian underwear. So, ancient Egyptian underwear is actually quite simple. It's basically a big triangular shape of linen. I've got a few holes, alright, Pharaoh's gonna shout at me, especially with the marks, but alright, I'm not gonna show. So how to wear the loins is you take a strip of linen this shape, so it has to be triangular at the end. Or the whole thing can be triangular, but I prefer it's got a bit of baggage over here. Although the underwear found in King Tut's tomb was a full triangle, so yeah, anyway. So how to apply the Egyptian underwear. I'm doing a Egyptian underwear demo. Yes. What you do is then, after taking it here, you gather it around. Make sure it's tight, but not like that it's strangling you, but it does need to be tight. You tie a knot here to secure it, and then you take the bottom and gather it. Just like this. And then, once you've gathered it, this goes through the knot. And that would hence cover the groin area. So there we go. Simple as that. You're ready to go. This is historically accurate. You're ready to go. So many people, you could argue hundreds of thousands of Egyptians in history lived and died like this. However, to add to the loins, there's something else. This over here is called a shanty. The shanty is basically a semicircular piece of linen that now what you do is you wrap this around the loins like so, and it's got strings over here that go here and then wrap around, and then you can tie it at the back. My strings just so happen that you have to tie it at the back. Great, so now we have the shanty. Oh dear. Now we have the shanty. And you see so many depictions of Egyptians wearing the shanty. I mean, just look at how Egyptian it is. And so yeah, that's the upgraded outfit. I've now made a proper shanty for it. And then to add to my soldier from Montuhotep's time, going back way earlier before the New Kingdom, I had my ankh, just like I would wear then. Some soldiers would wear these little tokens. I chose to wear the token of life in battle. There we go. And then, of course, look at how I've improved the weaponry. So this is your very basic soldier from the end of the Old Kingdom and the beginning of um, the Middle Kingdom, just as the first Dark Age ended, one of Montuhotep's soldiers. There we go. I present to you my upgraded Montuhotep soldier outfit. Cool, eh? And you can also add the cat. So I thought this was the Nemes, but the Nemes is what the pharaoh would wear, and only the pharaoh could wear, and the Nemes had a tail on like a bull. But a cat is just a simple, as you can probably tell, a rectangle of fabric with two laces tied on each side. Fine, I'll retie it for you future. I'll do this all for you. So yeah, here we go. This is a simple, super simple cat that everyday people would wear on their heads. I see a lot where they're actually also semicircular, just like the shanty. But I've just gone for a single square. You can't really say it's historically inaccurate. I'm sure it would have been done, but I probably should add a semicircle to it. I just find that hemming the linen is a nightmare. It was a nightmare hemming the shanty. And then you take it like this onto your head. And then it gets tied. It gets tied. Make sure it's nice and secure. You want it to be tight, but also not strangling you, but tight. And then there we go. Oh, my head is showing. It makes me look like I actually have hair. It is also very common for men to be bald, but you get hair. That's why I kept my natural hair for the scribe outfit, because some people did keep their natural hair. And I know that I don't have I'm not actually ancient Egyptian, so my very genetics are wrong. But the point of the mission is to make the outfits, not myself to be the genetics. I'm not a geneticist, although it is an important part of history. So there we go. Great, so pair it with your hide shield and copper spear, and you're ready to fight for Montuhotep. Here! Here! They're shooting arrows at us, men! Get down! I forgot the war is over. It is now 240 BC. So yeah, I have improved the spear. So again, it's also inaccurate. It's not copper, it's wood. I didn't actually have copper, but I painted the wood with copper paint. So there we go. And this is the shape that they were in. So why I said near the end of the video why the wooden tomb models are important, because I'll try and include a picture, hopefully. But there was a big phase of making wooden tomb models in the beginning of the Middle Kingdom. We have two models from around the year 2000 BC, which would have been Montuhotep's time. And this is exactly how they are equipped. They are even walking in this pose. So I'll try and maybe mimic it. But they're doing something like this. And they're in walking, modern pants. They are in walking pose. So like that. Cool, eh? We've been marching on the way to Montuhotep. To unify Egypt, we're marching north up the Nile. Only difference is they're wearing their hair. I'm wearing a cat. I don't have the hair for it, sadly. So yeah, there we go. Montuhotep soldiers, 2040 BC. Cool, eh? Middle Kingdom, beginning of the Middle Kingdom. So just a point about the shield. So here's the improved shield, as you can see. It would have been made out of wood with hide covering it. So it's just wood. This is actually wood. I just painted it to look like hide. I couldn't find any cow hide, sadly, but it's a goal. And then stitched all around is some leather to make it strong. And there we go. The shield is not very nice. Look at how awkward the handle is placed. So you'd think, oh, maybe the middle, so it's a bit like a Roman scutum. But no, they've placed it right near the top, so it makes it so awkward. So it's actually fine to march with it like this. Only problem is, if you put your hand too low, it catches the ground. So maybe you carry it like this. This is a big strain on the arm. Now it's much more of a strain. So carrying it like this the whole time is not very practical. So I find that I've actually fought with the shield in one of the medieval foam battles we did. I was the odd one out, I was ancient. And I find that actually fighting like this is doable. You can, you can be quite mobile with it. Only thing is that it's a little bit, still a bit awkward. So find, like, if you're defending yourself against arrows, we had an archer in one of our battles and they're busy shooting arrows at us, so I find that I do this, and yeah, that actually does help against arrows. But actually fighting like this, yeah, it just hurts your hand because all the pressure's on your hand, so you can't do this for very long. Maybe push your thumb inside like this, helps a bit. So the wooden two models, the soldiers there with their shields actually have a wooden handle that is fixed. So I can imagine it's then not as hard as that. So I've got a leather handle. So maybe it actually should be wood for that purpose. But otherwise, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Greetings from ancient Egypt, time of Montuhotep. I time traveled in the time travel video. Oh, it's linen, feels so comfy, it really does. I should be bald, shouldn't I? Oh, I can probably make it look like I'm bald. Yeah, hello, I'm Egyptian. Anyway, let's pop this on, it's getting a bit cold. Summer's not quite here yet. And hey, maybe you prefer the war image with the tunic, eh? Could have been soldiers who had tunics, definitely. But Montuhotep's time, yeah, could have as well, but it's not very likely, hey? Especially being the old kingdom where it's not as established. Although, hey, Egypt was quite wealthy and rich, eh? Even that time. But nonetheless. Which image you prefer, future? The one without the tunic or with the tunic, huh? Which you prefer? Leave it in the comments, huh? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that has been my latest outfit and the upgrade on my previous Egyptian outfit. So you can see how you can merge them together, you can fiddle with, because Egypt's history was just that long. And I also, before I go, I said I would explain the difference between Upper and Lower Egypt. Simple. The source of the Nile is in Africa, so it flows out towards the Mediterranean. So the Egyptians, obviously not knowing what the world looked like from space, like we do now, and of course the whole Western Northern Hemisphere dominance in history, as it tended to be after European colonialism. The world is just viewed as that way up and this way up, but to the Egyptians it was upside down. So Upper Egypt was the source of the Nile, where, you know, with Thebes being its capital, and going lower down as they viewed it, the water flowing down towards the Mediterranean was Lower Egypt, with Memphis. So yeah, interesting, eh? Very interesting. I wanted to make one last little note before I really end off the video. Is I explained all the food, you know, the food and drink of the ancient Egyptian. But there is something else I wanted to explain. So, as you can see, I literally have tons of notes about ancient Egypt. It just never ends. It just shows how long ancient Egypt's history was. And a really big help for learning about this all was Joanne Fletcher's documentary called Immortal Egypt. Probably one of the most comprehensive looks at ancient Egyptian history that fits in a couple-hour documentary that makes it fun to watch. Absolutely recommended. So I will try to link that in the video. So I learned so much from there. That's where I wrote a lot of my notes based on. And I did something while I watched that, something pretty cool. When I first was doing it, I was eating one of these things, basically a mixture of, sorry, the kids at school were eating this. I was explaining the same thing to them and they just finished this all. But there would have been a jungle mix in here and the Hawaiian mix here. So when I first watched the documentary, watching the first chunk of it, I was eating this. I happened to pick it up and started eating this. I'll be thinking, but there's coconut in here, banana, very inaccurate. But the thing is that I just thought that the next time I watched the documentary, I got one of these again to eat. And it became a thing where every time I was watching the documentary, I would eat the exact same food. Reason being is because I think that sense is so important. You know, the fact that we were just visiting food in ancient Egypt is reviving the senses. It's a very important aspect that you shouldn't neglect in modern times, at any time. We are creatures of sense. So if you eat the same thing while you learn about the same thing, then each time you eat it, it will help you to better tap into those memories. So mm, mm, mm. 17,000 BC Kurta, 8,000 BC axial tilt. King Narmer, the first pharaoh. The first intermediate period. Middle Kingdom, Hyksos invasion, wooden 2 models. Akhenaten, Nefertiti. Saqqara pyramid, the first step pyramid built for King Djoser, hailed as the inventor of the stone and later graffiti that was written in the 1400s BC on his tomb as graffiti. Cool, eh? So, something for you to maybe learn as well. Maybe find the same thing to eat when you learn about an era. And gosh, the memories, it makes you remember it better, eh? So yeah, I just thought I'd add that. Anyway, thanks for joining me, Future. And I look forward to the next outfit. The Fertile Crescent has been visited now. Indus still needs work, but Mesopotamia, Egypt, everything needs work. But I think Egypt is by far is now the most complete. This is 100% accurate. Thin leather string for an ankh, full linen, and bronze. So yeah, look at that, eh? Cool. Anyway, goodbye now, right? So I must now get back to Pharaoh Ramses. He's going to shout at me about this anyway. Shh, don't tell him, alright? Bye-bye.
Hawati en tawi, tem jefa kau, ta pen em awef, mu f, ta f, sem f, menemenet f nebet, hayet nebet, henenet nebet, jedefuet f, awet f haset, semau em sa nuet.